Hi, I'm Nolan with Waterproof Decks of Oregon here. Does your deck need to have slope? Does your waterproof deck need to have sloping? And the simple answer is yes. I'll explain why and then I'll go in and tell you a couple stories of experiences that we had here at Waterproof Decks. The reason that you want to have your deck sloped is that you want to avoid ponding. Ponding is considered water laying on your deck longer than 48 hours after a rain event. So in other words, after it rains, if the water is still on your deck for more than 48 hours, that is considered ponding. And the bad thing about ponding is it's not so much a quality issue as an aesthetic issue. Some say that water on the deck, if you have ponding on your deck, it will break down the vinyl membrane. The manufacturer, Duradec, tells us that it's not a quality issue, it is an aesthetic issue. And so what happens is if you have water laying on your deck, if you have ponding on your deck, the UV rays from the sun will bleach out your color prematurely. And of course, you don't want that. The other thing is when you have ponding, as you know, it collects all the dirt. The water or the dirt comes into that pond, and you will have a lot of dirt, and you also have staining. So it's something you really want to avoid. So now, how much slope do you want to have on your deck? Well, the industry standard is 1/4 inch per foot. So you want to have your deck sloping 1/4 inch vertically for every foot horizontally. So if you take a level on it, a 1 foot or a 3 foot level, you should have 3/4 of an inch, or let's say a 4 foot level. So if you take a 4 foot level on your deck, you put the bubble at plumb, you want to have 1 inch at the bottom end of space between the level and the deck. And that's 1 inch of slope per foot, essentially 2%. You can't really feel it. It's not hardly noticeable, but it's enough that it will run water off your deck and it will prevent ponding. Even if you have a few anomalies in your deck, if it's not perfectly flat, perfectly without any dips and so on, you still, at 2%, you will still have most of the water running off. So you want 2% slope. The other thing is, if you do not have 2% slope, you can do something about it. There's a couple things we do if a deck does not have, if we come to a deck or we're repairing a deck or we're installing new Duradec. If we're installing new Duradec on a deck, there's a couple things we do to give it the slope. One is we will simply put in floor leveler on the low spots, and that can sometimes be enough, or a bit of Bondo, and then sand that out, and that can often be enough to get away with the ponding. But if the deck itself, if the framing is level, there's two ways we can deal with it. One is we can put furring strips on the deck, install new plywood above that, and that'll give us, we can give you 2% slope on that. But the other thing is, the other way is that, and we've done it sometimes, and it just really depends on what your deck structure is like. But we can go underneath the deck, lift the deck up off of the posts, and cut the support posts down, so that you can get your proper slope, your 2%. And actually, there's another way that you can deal with ponding. If there's no way to give any more slope to your deck, whether it's putting floor leveler in, or putting in shims, putting in furring strips, or if you cannot lower your posts to bring the whole deck down to get your 2% slope, you can install drains. Anywhere in the deck where there's a low spot, you can install a drain. It's a PVC coated drain. You install it, and you just weld your Duradec membrane to that drain, and that'll take care of your water ponding. Now, a couple stories. One job we did a couple years ago out in White Salmon. We looked at the job and everything looked fine, but when we came back, the framers had framed that deck perfectly level. It was a brand new construction, really too bad, but they had built this, they were building this brand new house. They intended to have a waterproof deck over their garage, but the framers built that thing perfectly level. And the doors, where the doors were framed in, they were not very much or very high above the deck surface. So we ended up putting furring strips over that entire deck, which brought the surface of the deck actually up above the door threshold, which is not really a good thing. But we did the best we could. We could not warranty the job, but we waterproofed it for them, and I think it's working really well. We ran the membrane down underneath the threshold and sealed it off against the house wall. It was the best we could do. It was not ideal, but the only other option was to redo the whole framing on that part of the house, and that just wasn't a good option. So then the other job we did was recently up in Sandy here, and that all the framing was open underneath the deck. So it was a deck that was originally a hardwood deck, so they had like 1x6, I think it was Ipe deck or something like that. So they had hardwood on their deck. We tore the hardwood off, put on 3/4 plywood, but the deck did not have enough slope on it. So we ended up going underneath, lifting the deck. We cut off the posts, lowered it down, and we got the proper slope that we needed on that deck. So it worked great. You want to have at least 2% slope on your deck. That is ideal. That keeps you from having trouble with ponding, which, as we said, will fade your deck a lot quicker, and it actually voids the warranty. So you definitely don't want to do that. If you want our good 15-year warranty, that deck needs to have 2% slope on it and just have no ponding. And we do the best we can. We do the best we can to have absolutely no water on that deck 48 hours after a rain event. Take care. See you next time.